Hello, everyone. Welcome to 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program. Over the next month, I'm going to take a deep dive into the role of human resources in fully operationalizing a best practices compliance program. Each day, I will pick up one topic with three key takeaways which you can utilize to improve, enhance, or upgrade your compliance program. This series of 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. Operationalizing compliance through your tone in the middle. The Department of Justice has made clear that middle management is a critical part of any company's compliance program success. While it all does start with the top, with the board of directors and senior executives setting tone for the rest of the companies, prosecutors are mandated under the guidance to consider how middle management, in turn, have reinforced those standards and encouraged employees to abide by them. Moreover, the guidance posed several questions directly to middle management, including the following. What actions has middle management stakeholders taken to demonstrate their commitment to compliance or compliance personnel, including their remediation efforts? Have they persisted in that commitment in the face of competing interests or business objectives? It is clear that the Department of Justice expects compliance to be operationalized down into the middle management level. Further experience has widely shown that employees prefer to speak to their direct supervisors about issues or potential compliance violations they become aware of. The question is, how can a corporate compliance function reach middle management? This is a key area of assistance which can be provided by human resources, as one of the ways HR can help is to operationalize compliance is to assist each level of the organization to have a proper tone, specifically in this case, the middle of an organization. A company must have more than simply good tone at the top. It must move down through the organization from senior management to middle management and indeed into the lower ranks. This means that one of the tasks of any companies, including the compliance organization, is to get middle management to respect the stated ethics and values and culture of a company, because if they do, this will be communicated down through the organization. Adam Bryant explored this topic in an interview with Victoria Ransom. Ransom, the co-founder of Wildfire Interactive, spoke about the role of senior management in communicating ethical values. She imparted the lesson she has learned is that you're only as good as the leaders underneath you. And sometimes this can be a painful lesson. You might think that they are projecting your company's values and then the rest of the companies experience them. However, this is or may not be. While tone at the top is certainly important in setting a standard, she came to appreciate that moving it downward through the entire organization is the critical element. Direct supervisors become the most important influence on the people in the company. Therefore, a big part of leading becomes your ability to pick and guide the right people in the middle management level. When a company is young and small, it tries to codify its values, but this does not always work. You need to have your values formalized and stated. Make clear what is expected of everyone, because you really want to use this in hiring the right people to know their values. Another important reason is to terminate as few people who do not live up to these values. But if you're going to be doing that, it's important that you be clear about what your values are. The actions to terminate can have a very large impact on your workforce. It makes employees feel like, yeah, the company actually puts its money where its mouth is. An equally valuable insight is about senior management and ethical values, moving those values down through an organization. The best way to undermine a company's values is to put people in leadership positions who are not adhering to the values. Then it completely starts to fall flat until you take action and move those people out, and then everybody gets values again. Just remember, that communicates a tone to middle management. So what should the tone in the middle be? Put another way, what should be middle management's role in a company's compliance program? This role is critical because the majority of company employees work most directly with middle management rather than top management, and consequently, they will take their cues from middle management on how to respond to a situation. Moreover, middle management is the group that listens to the concerns of employees. Even if the middle management cannot affect a direct change, it is important that employees have an outlet to express their concerns. Remember, part of the beauty of a reporting and whistleblower system, it is as it allows employees to come in and raise concerns, even if they're not compliance violations or even legal violations. You at least have a mechanism where employees can bring those concerns to management. Therefore, your organization should train middle managers to enhance their listening skills in the overall context of providing training for or with a management toolkit. This can be particularly true if there is a compliance violation or other incident that requires some form of employee discipline. Most employees think that there must be or should be organizational justice so that people will be treated fairly. Without organizational justice, employees typically do not understand outcomes, but if there is perceived procedural fairness, then an employee is more likely to accept a decision they may not like or even disagree with. We explored that in a previous podcast on organizational justice and the fair process doctrine. And think about this in terms of the lines of communication and your communication skills when conveying your message of compliance from the top of the organization into middle management. In a later podcast, we'll talk about compliance tone at the bottom, but here I'd really like you to think about middle management. So what are today's 3 key takeaways? Number 1, while tone at the top is critical, the tone in the middle can actually work to more fully operationalize your compliance program. And why is that? It's because most employees do not deal with senior management on a day-to-day basis. They may make a report or two, but they're rarely going to be interacting with senior management. Their day-to-day interaction with the management of the company is going to be through middle management. Having a committed culture around the values and ethics embedded in middle management can be critical. 2, how do you train middle managers? Do you train them to listen? Do you give them a toolkit by which they can respond if someone comes to them with concerns, complaints, or other issues? This is not something that I think typically companies think about, and I would ask you to consider that from the compliance perspective. And that leads to number 3. What's the compliance toolkit you provide to middle managers? Middle managers need to receive training on management skills, but what about compliance issues? How have you brought compliance issues and indeed a compliance toolkit to your middle management? If you haven't done it, think about it. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the role of HR in a best practices and fully operationalized compliance program on 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program. 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. Thanks so much for listening.